Hi, my name is Joachim and I'm working as a level artist at DICE in Stockholm. Over the last years I've been creating materials in Substance Designer, both for practice and some personal projects. Recently I created this cactus material and I got a lot of questions on how I created the material together with the spines. So I thought I would do a breakdown for you guys where I will show my workflow. Bear in mind that this is not a step-by-step tutorial, but hopefully you will be able to pick up some stuff from it anyway. I will start by showing the material and its graph in Substance Designer. Then I will show how I set up the material and spines together with the mesh in 3D Studio Max, and finally show the end result in Marmoset Toolbag 3. So let's start. Here's my material and graph inside Substance Designer. Before I start, I just want to say that there are many ways that you can put your nodes together and to achieve your final result. The things I will show you is just one way, and it's just a matter of finding a workflow that fits best for you. As you can see, I'm trying to keep my graph as organized and clean as possible, since larger materials can be quite messy with a lot of nodes. I will try to separate the main features into group, where I then can blend them together using the blend node. I try to keep all my noises and generators at one place to avoid using them twice and to optimize the graph as much as possible. I created a material as a non-square texture since I wanted it to tile better over a vertical shape and to avoid repetitions in the texture. Starting with the main shape, I'm using a gradient linear, which I'm using the transform to rotate it and then blend them together to get this sharper tube form. I'm then using a level adjustment to get it a little bit more softer, and then I'm using a tile sampler to just tile it in XLED. I'm then creating this ribbed pattern using a shape that I tile a few times in X and Y, and then using a blur to get the more subtle effect. I'm then using an overlay to blend it over to get this shape that you often see on a cactus. I'm then using a slope blur to just get some extra variations in the vertical lines, and in the end I'm using a multiply blend to blend in some noise to get some height variations in the displacement. Once I'm done, I'm sending it off to another blend, which I blend in the spine holes, which is the holes that you can see underneath the buttons that are here. So I'm using a shape again, tile it a few times. I've been creating a function for XLED, which I've connected all the necessary nodes to. So for instance, if I want to adjust amounts in XLED, I can just tweak it and all the nodes that have this function will adjust with it. I'll take it back to where it was. So once I've created those tiles, I'm using slope blur to just break it up a little bit, and then again using a blur just to soften it up. I'm then blending it together with the main shape using the subtract and a lower opacity. If I raise the opacity, you will see that the holes get more extracted. I'll take it back. So once I have the holes, I created the spine buttons themselves. So again, I'm using a shape which I tile. So this node again have this function for XLED. I'm then using I'm blending it together with fractal noise and some slope and some final adjustments just to make them a little bit more random. So once I'm done with the buttons, I'm creating this edge damage that you can also see on the references for a cactus. I'm using a noise which I blend together with the main shape, which I then overlay, which gives me this result. I'm then using a histogram scan to really just get a mask for where the edges are and break it up a little bit. So here I can actually now control how much damage it should be on the edges of the cactus. So I think it was around here maybe. So once I have the mask for the edge damage, I'm just subtract it again just to get a little bit of an edge where the damage are. Once I'm done with the edge damage, I just did some smaller spots. I saw that in the reference there's just some white spots here and there. That is just a simple shape that I randomly tile with a tile sampler, and then adjust it with some slope blur and blur, and then just add that on top of the height map. Once I'm done with that, I'm creating this larger damage, the darker damage that you can see here, by using some noises and some mask just to get it randomly on the texture. I'm then using some slope blur to just make it more sharpened and more uneven, and I then blend it together using a multiply node. So with the histogram scan, I can adjust the amount of damage. So let's say I want to bump it up a little bit, I can do it so. And if I just want to get rid of everything, I can just put it to 0. So let's take it back to where it was, something like that. So that's pretty much it for the main shape, the main height map. I'm using directional warp in the end just to get to break up the lines, or the vertical lines, even more. And again, using a slope blur on everything. So once I'm done with the height map, I'm creating the albedo, or the diffuse for the cactus. I'm using the height map together with the gradient map just to get some colors in there. I picked some colors that I liked, and I'm blending it together with some noise just to get some variations in there, some basic variations. I'm then adding some spots in there as well. I'm blending with some vertical lines again, just trying to follow some of the references that I've seen. And then I created the color for the actual edge damage using the mask that I created for the edge damage earlier, and then blurred it a little bit to create this gradient where it goes from white to dark to this other color inside here. And then I'm then using the edge mask to mask it in over the green color. So once I have this, I'm just blending in some of the white, the spots that we've seen before, and after that I'm blending in the actual the spines buttons, again using the same mask and a gradient just to get some variations in there. And in the end I'm blending it together with the edge damage, as you can see here, and I'm again using the actual mask for it and a gradient map just to get some interesting results in there. And there you go. And then doing some final adjustments by blending the albedo, the base color, together with some curvature smooth and some subtle ambient occlusion, just to make it pop a little bit more. It's not necessary, but I thought it looked a little bit better doing it that way. I'm using the color, the albedo, to create the roughness as well, and together with some of the noises that I have here in the beginning. And here's just a matter of trying to get something that looks good in the light and something that fits with the reference or the things that I'm looking for. So once I'm done with all these different textures, the color, the normal, roughness, height map, I'm putting everything in together in this base material node. And the reason why I'm doing it this way is just it's easier for me to keep everything organized, and it's easier to just see what I have and output it into those different textures. I've created this RGBA merge, which I've then created a specific texture, and this is just for channel package in Unreal. And then I also have a slot for the height, the normal, and for base color. So that's pretty much it for the main cactus texture. Next up I will cover how I created the cactus spines. I was trying to figure out the best way to do it, since it would require a lot of spines on a texture like this. So I thought the best way to do it is just to overlay an alpha on top of this. So what I did was I just started with this simple, let me see, to make it a little bit more clear. I just started with this gradient simple shape, just to get one of this spine shape out. I'm then using splatter circular to achieve something that could work as a spine. I'm creating three different just to get some variations in there, and then I'm using a tile sampler again. So instead of creating, as you can see in the main material, I had a lot of this spine buttons, but I didn't really want to create a non-square texture, and if I would create this many amount of spines, it would, I think the alpha would be too low res to actually work. So instead what I did was I created, so it's instead of 10 in XLED, I'm just doing 5, and then I can just in Y I'm using 11. So on my cactus I have 44, and in Y and in X I have 10. So what I just need to do with this texture in the end is to tile it twice in X and 4 times in Y, and it will fit perfectly with a main texture. So yeah, I just tile it a few times like this, and then I'm using another shape or tile sampler just to get some gradient in there, to some depth. And then I'm having the normal, and then I'm doing some simple gradient to get some color in it. I'm using the main tile sampler and just clamp it a little bit for the alpha, and then again using this base material to plug in the different outputs. So here comes the fun part with the displacement. So for this one, I wanted it to be, if I change this to a square and changing the materials like this, I'm just changing the tessellation and also the tiling. So what will happen with the actual displacement is that it would displace the spine, so it points out from the actual mesh itself. So later on in 3D Studio Max or Marmoset, I can use this displacement to displace the actual spines on top of the main mesh. So that's pretty much it for the whole cactus and spines material. I will now export those textures and bring them into 3D Studio Max and continue from there. I have imported the textures into 3D Studio Max and created a material and applied it on top of a cylinder. I've made sure to have segments on top of the spines and between the spines. By doing it this way, I can simply copy this mesh, and I will drag it to the side for now. I will apply the spine texture that we created in Substance Designer. As I was covering, I need to tile this texture 2 times in X and 4 times in Y to fit with the cactus texture underneath. So I will do that by using a UV X-form modifier and then tile it twice in X and 4 times in Y. I will put it back to where it was before and use a push modifier just to push it out a little bit from the mesh underneath. And now you can see that it fit perfectly with the texture underneath. I can show how this mesh displays with the displacement map by using a displace modifier in 3D Studio Max. And I will import the texture, the height map that I exported from Substance Designer. And I will use the existing UVs for this mesh, and I will adjust the strength to adjust the height map. So now you can see it starts to pull out from the actual mesh, and I can adjust the center of the height map as well to make it fit perfectly. And then I can adjust the strength to get it to pop out more from the mesh underneath. So this is just one way of showing how the height map will work for the actual mesh itself. Obviously in Marmoset or in any other engine, you can use the height map or tessellations in any other engine to make it work. But if I want to not use the height map, I could always convert this mesh into an object with the displacement, and if I want to get rid of some overdraw, I can always select the edges and chamfer it, and then select the faces between and delete it. And now you can see that it will have less overdraw for with alpha material on top of the mesh underneath. But for now, I will just stick with what I had before. So this method I can use on pretty much any kind of object, as long as I keep the segments for the cactus when I duplicate it, and then I will apply the displacements on this other mesh. I can always delete, now when I've done this spine mesh, I can always delete them every other segments, just to save some triangle counts as well. So, but for now I will keep it like this. So I will export both my meshes into Marmoset, and I will set up the lighting and materials in there. I have now imported my meshes into Marmoset Toolbag 3. So I have one mesh for the cactus and one mesh for the spines. So I've also created two different materials, one cactus material and one spine material. So I will start by importing textures for the cactus material. So I'm starting with the albedo, and I will import the normal map as well. I'm making sure to have the normal map flip Y to fit with the Marmoset, and I'm importing my roughness using the red channel from the packed texture that we did in Substance Designer, and I'm setting my metal map to 0 since we don't have any metal in this material, and I'm importing the height map as well, and I'm increasing the tessellation a little bit just to get all the details from the height map, and I'm adjusting the scale just slightly to get that the look that I'm from the cactus. So once I'm done with the cactus material, I'm importing the textures for the spines, starting off with the albedo, and I need to make it visible, and then I'm importing the gloss as well, the normal map, and the displacement. And here you can see the same result as I achieved in 3D Studio Max. So I can adjust the amount of displacement for the spines, and I'm using the alpha from the base color or the albedo to get the spines to work with the material. So I can now adjust the scale of the spines, and you will see that it fits perfectly with the cactus material underneath. So I can just change the resolution of the preview in the viewport. So yeah, this is pretty much it, how I achieved the cactus material. First created in Substance Designer, and then I created the meshes inside 3D Studio Max. I then imported the meshes together with the textures into Marmoset Toolbag, and I then set up the materials to work together with the cactus and the spines. So I hope you enjoyed this breakdown, and if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to contact me or send me an email or whatever. I see you next time. Bye.